there, I'm Brian Stevens. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel and for looking at today's video. If this is the first time you've been here, make sure I'm going to put a card or something up in one of these corners for the whole playlist for these videos that I'm working on right now. These are the Remix in 26 videos. These are videos that I'm putting together for you to help get you prepared for success and whatever your goals are as a musician or a music business person, or heck, just as a person in 2026. And today we're going to talk about something very specific, and I'm going to try and hit this one quick instead of going on for 30 minutes. It's today's video is inspired by these notebooks and a conversation I had with a student here this past week. I have this conversation with students usually within the first month of lessons. And what these notebooks are, these are my practice notebooks from years gone by. And you'll see that there's a certain amount of content in each one of those. And I want to talk about a practice notebook. Now, with most students, you may only be working out of one book. Maybe your teacher has you working out of one particular book, and that's the only thing that you're doing. Especially if you're a beginner, that's pretty common. But if you're intermediate or advanced, it's pretty common to be working out of multiple books at the same time. When I was in college, my stack of books that I'd be working out of for all my classes looked something kind of like this. And this could be very overwhelming to walk into the practice room and see a whole stack of books there and realize that you've got to go through all of the stuff that you need to practice for every one of those books, whether it's for a grade or just so that you can move on to the next thing with whatever you're working on in your lessons with your teacher. Obviously, you want to make progress, and you want to feel like the time and the energy and the money that you spend working on this instrument is worth something. You don't want to circle the block too long, right? Well, the thing that I tend to do now as I share this, my friends in the publishing industry that may see this, because I talk to you on a regular basis, I don't know exactly how legal this is, but here's the thing that I'm going to tell to any student. If you buy a copy of the book, you pretty much do what you need to with that book at that point to help you to learn faster and more effectively. And so what I do, if I have a stack of books that I'm working out of and a lot of different things I need to accomplish in the course of a practice session, whether it's an hour or 3 hours, or back when I was in college, I'd practice as much as 8 hours a day because I had so much stuff to get through. What I'll do is I'll take one page out of the book. Let's say one page out of this Gary Chafee book, and I'll photocopy that page. In fact, there's that page right there. I'll photocopy that page, put some holes in it, and I'll put it into a 3-ring binder. And for this week, this is the page that I'm going to be working on. Now, in this case, I've got multiple exercises. And so maybe I'm working through an exercise a day or a couple of exercises a day. But the whole point is I want to be able to focus my attention only on what needs to be done right in this moment. If I'm looking at this entire book, and as I used to be guilty of doing, I start on the page I'm supposed to work on, and I'm like, oh, what's on the next page? I'm kind of bored of that page. Oh, I don't have it quite down, but man, I'm really bored of that page. Oh, what's next? Oh, wait, what is he saying here? And then all of a sudden I start reading through the book. And before you know it, 10 minutes have gone by, and all I've done is just kind of thumb through the thing that I was supposed to practice. The great thing about this is that it helps me to focus my attention, and it helps me to avoid overwhelm. Instead of all the stuff that's in this book that I need to learn, I'm only going to look at the one thing that I need to learn today. What do I need to work on today? And so for every one of these books, I'm going to photocopy the one page that I need to focus on in my practice this week. And in the case of multiple subjects, multiple topics, or multiple goals that I have with my course of study, you'll notice that I've got some tabs here. So in this case, maybe I've got my Gary Chafee exercises in their own tab, and then I've got some reading and polyrhythmic dynamic stuff. There's my reading exercises I'm working on. And here we go. My next section, there's some jazz independence. Now, this this page by itself doesn't really tell you much, but it's your course of study. So you know when you see this page, oh, I'm doing a jazz ride pattern on the right hand. I'm playing 2 and 4 with my left foot. And if you need to, you can write that stuff in the margins or insert a page that has whatever supporting structure you need for the thing you're practicing. But most of the time, like when I see this page, I'm like, oh yeah, it's my jazz independent studies. Cool. And so I've got this entire page. Now, instead of worrying about the entire book, I'm only worried about one page. Now, let me give you, if there's any kind of hack or brain tip that I can give you, don't do what I did the first 10 years that I was a student. Don't start at 21 and learn to play exercise number 21 from 40 beats a minute to 400 beats a minute and not look at the rest of the page until you've mastered that concept. That's the worst way in the world to practice. Here's a much better way to practice this thing. What you want to do is you want to start with the first exercise. And if you're giving yourself 5 minutes for this or 10 minutes for this section of content, decide, am I working on 1 or 2 things? Whittle it down to the 1 or 2 things that you need to work on today. Find the slowest tempo that you can manageably play this and really get it to where you can play that entire line or that entire exercise 45 beats a minute, 50 beats a minute. Note perfect. You can get everything, maybe play it 10 times in a row without blowing it. That's how you know that you can go ahead and move on to the next thing. Now, in that 5, 10, or 15 minutes you've allotted for this one section of your practice, if you get to the end, let's say you got 10 minutes, you get to the end of this in 5 minutes, you're doing it 10 times in a row without any mistakes, go ahead and add another exercise. So at the end of that 10 minutes, maybe you've got those 2 lines. Now, let's flash forward to the next day. It's Tuesday, and you've got to go practice again. Don't start back at square one on exercise number 1 here on the page. If you want to review it really quick, maybe put it on at 50 beats a minute. Put your click track on, play it at 50 beats a minute just to see how well it's still wired in or if there's any things that you might need to revisit for a second. But very quickly, move on to the next one. Try and get the third one cemented into your body. And if you can get that done in 5 minutes, go ahead and go to the fourth one. Now, don't go more than 2 or 3 in your allotment of time. Again, we're not trying to learn the whole page in a day. But realize this, when you're working on one of these exercises, you're strengthening everything else about every other exercise that you're going to practice on this page. So to be able to play this with a level of confidence, maybe not mastery, but confidence at a slow speed, move on to the next thing. Maybe you build in some dynamics. Maybe the first 5 minutes you're working this one exercise and you're working it for the actual coordination, but then maybe you're working for the next 5 minutes for your dynamic control. Then yeah, stay on the one exercise. But you're working 2 very different qualities. One is, can I play this? The other is, how do I play this? So maybe for you, you take an entire 10 minutes to get through that one exercise. If that's all the time you have for this page, move on to the next thing. You're not going to feel a sense of mastery over this. We're going to talk about that in a second. You're not going to feel a sense of mastery over this in one practice session. Keep moving. It's about moving forward. So what you're going to find over the course of a matter of days is that once you get through several of these, the mechanical part of what you're working on this page is going to start to cement itself. So you may find that it doesn't take you nearly as long. By the time you get to this last section of this page, you might be able to play each of these 4 in a matter of a minute apiece when it comes to the coordination of it. But that doesn't mean that you've mastered it yet. It just means that you're having to spend less time than you did in the beginning on coordination. Maybe you spend a little more time on those 4 on your dynamic control. And so you may find that what might take you an entire day to get 1 or 2 of these, entire 10 or 15 minutes of your practice, by the end of the week or the end of 2 weeks, you're able to assimilate a whole block of 4 exercises in the same amount of time because you've wired in part of what's required to do that exercise. And then it's a matter of working all the way through your tempo range. So if you get through this entire page, let's say you get to it in a week. That might be a lofty goal for some people, but maybe you've got that, where you can get through this entire page at 50 beats a minute, and you can move all the way from pianissimo up to fortissimo with the limb that's playing these independence exercises. Great. Then maybe the next week you stay on this page, but now you're going to go back up and you're going to bump up the metronome from 50 to 52. Or 55, something reasonable. And you're going to start to see, can I do this at a slightly faster tempo? Do I have as much control over it? Am I able to make it sound musical? Or am I barely hanging on? Am I white knuckling it through this page? And you're gonna find if you'll move up in smaller increments, you're gonna have a lot less of the white knuckling. And in fact, you may be able to make bigger jumps. Maybe in that 10 minutes, as you run through each one of these, that you're able to play with no difficulty at 50. You find 55 is not that much harder to do, and you did it in 5 minutes. Well, try and go to 60 with the next 5 minutes that you've got. So in one day, you've gone from 50 on all of these to 60 beats a minute. And then maybe your next practice day is getting from 60 to 70. You're gradually moving the tempos up. And so you're really getting to know this material in your body and inside your ear. And you're getting to know it at a lot of dynamic levels and a lot of different tempos, so that you can do this at whatever tempo the song you're playing requires. That's the idea of moving through tempos until you feel comfortable enough through all the tempo ranges with a page, and then get rid of the page. The other thing I had to sort of divorce myself from was this idea of keeping trophies around. You know, I used to write in my books, and my trophy would be to go back and look at all the pages where I had squiggly marks all over everything, and I'd pat myself on the back because, you know, I'd worked through all the stuff and had the evidence that I'd worked through it. Don't worry about that crap. What worries is, can you do the stuff? So once you get done with a page and you've done all the things that were required for that, whether it's tempo, dynamics, maybe the groovability of something, how you move it around inside the beat. Once you're done with it, wad it up and throw it away. That's hard to do. I know. That hurt my heart there's a tree that's died a little bit more because I just did that. Anyway, when you're done with a page and you've done everything you're going to do with it, rip it out, throw it away, because you're going to replace it with the next page. That's the idea. Now, the other hack that I had for you, our brain, as I said before, our brain thrives on novelty. So for something like Gary Chester Newbreed, if you're working on that, and I did this in college because this is how they told me to do it, and I got to tell you, it was probably the wrong way to do it. No, it wasn't probably. It was the wrong way to do it. Starting here and working all the way to the end of the page until I could play the entire thing note perfect. Don't move on to the next page before you get this page. I'm gonna give you permission to do something else. Copy the next page, because all the next page is variations on the same kinds of ideas. So in this case, if I have something that's a reading passage and I have two of them that are very, very similar in their content, similar in their difficulty, I'm going to build a little novelty in my practice, because if I see the same thing 3 or 4 days in a row, it's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to get note blindness, or worse, I might actually start to memorize a little of this stuff. It's not the point of this book. The point of this Newbreed book is not to memorize these things. It's to be comfortable with the concepts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a little bit of the first page, maybe the first line today of this 4A, and then maybe I'm going to go over to 4B. I'm going to work that one tomorrow. And then the next day, come back and see how this thing's sitting. You're going to be surprised. If you got through that first line on the next page, you may go back and find out that your brain was working on this the whole time that you weren't actively playing on it. One concept that's on this page is being strengthened by working on the same concept on another page. So what I may do over time is to build in more novelty to keep me engaged, keep me from going on autopilot. I may go from one page to another of similar content until I've worked on the entirety of both pages. And I find for me, if I'm doing 4 or 5 days a week, I'm seeing 2 pages of that content at least twice in that week. Let's say I'm practicing 5 days a week. By the end of the fourth day, I may have gotten all the way to the end of this page at a very, very slow tempo. And at the end of this page at a very slow tempo. So maybe day 5 becomes, can I play both of these start to finish with no mistakes at a slightly faster tempo? Again, maybe I'm at 50 beats a minute on one day. And by the end of the week, I'm at 55 beats a minute, but I can get all the way through each page. Maybe my last day is just getting from 55 to 60 beats a minute on both pages. Now, that is going to encapsulate an entire week's worth of practice on one topic, one subject, where I've really hyper focused on these things for just enough amount of time to get it done. At no point as I'm practicing this way am I ever going to feel a sense of mastery. That's the other thing that I want you to ditch right now as you're watching this video. You probably won't walk out of the practice room with a sense of mastery about any of this stuff, but you will feel like I could do that a little bit better than I did it yesterday. That's the goal, because over the next month, the next 6 months, the next year, these concepts are going to take hold in your playing almost as if by magic. And then you're going to go back and look at some of these exercises, or better yet, you're going to play some of these things inside of some music. You're going to have music that requires the qualities that this kind of practice is trying to build into your playing. And you're going to find that music to be a lot easier, if not completely easy to play, compared to 6 months ago or a year ago, or however long it's been that you need to practice this stuff. And you'll notice if you've got some transcription work, the worst thing in the world you could do if you've got a book of either solos or transcriptions that you need to learn. The worst thing in the world, Will Coxon's one of these. I've had my students do this from day one. Photocopy the page in Will Coxon that you're working on and put it in the notebook. Put the Will Coxon book on the shelf, because it's just, to me, it's demotivating to see 150 some odd solos that I've got to learn. You don't have to, number one. And number two, I forget that there's a whole lot more of them if all I got to look at is one. So that's how I would structure my practice time in the book. Now, there's a lot of different ways to structure how you get through your practice time. I like to work a progression that sees me with simple ideas all the way up to the most complex stuff, meaning that I usually start working on a single surface, and then by the time I'm at the back of my practice, I'm usually working on music, a transcription or a play along that involves the entire kit, some kind of thing that involves or encapsulates all of the things I've been working on all day long. Now, there's one more section that's at the back. You see one more little tab here, and I've got notebook paper in here. I actually pulled this from one of my journals. Keep a practice journal. And all you need to do is, in the back of this notebook, have one more tab, and don't put the whole 100 sheets of blank paper in there. Put enough paper in there for the week. And on each page, you're just going to date it. You're going to say practice and the date. Like this one I pulled from one of my practice journals in 2019. And you're just going to catalog exactly what you did in those pages. Write, if you want to write the name or the book that it came from. If you want to write the page number that it came from, if you want to write the exact exercise, and as you can tell in some of these that I've got written, the exact tempos that I worked and the amount of time that I did. So keep a practice journal so that you can see your progress written down day to day in case you need the encouragement. Or for me, usually it's in case I need a reminder. What did I do yesterday? What was that tempo I started at the day before? If I have them written on their own individual pages, I can go back to that page and very quickly find what I need. I can't tell you some of the books that I have where, from before I used this process, probably this Gary Chafee book. Yeah, I'm not gonna let you see this because it's riddled with pencil marks. The thing that you're going to find is that it's going to be a lot easier to track your progress. You're going to get a lot less overwhelmed from just the deluge of information you may have to work on. And it's going to help you to really drill down in that 10, 15, 20-minute segment that you're working on a concept, drill down at a much more granular level. And it's going to actually help you work through all that content faster. This seems like a slower way to work. It's slower at first, but it's going to keep you on task. It's going to keep you motivated. And it's going to get, if you ever need any kind of attaboy, just look back through the last 7 days of practice to see what you've accomplished. And better yet, the thing we haven't really talked about today is record some of this practice. Keep it on a little SD card that you can pop in if you use a GoPro, if you use your phone, or whatever it is. Go back on Friday and look at something that you started on Monday. Look at the difference between Monday and Friday. You should see a noticeable difference. Now, you might not have mastered that concept in the span of 5 days, but it should feel and look and sound better than when you started. You need those indicators. You need those mile markers so that you can see the progress. Sometimes it's just being able to look at Monday and go, man, I couldn't even play that at 50 beats a minute on Monday, and now I'm at 90 beats a minute. That's progress, brother. That's huge progress. You start stacking that kind of progress week after week after week after month after year. Before you know it, you're where you want to be. I hope that this quick little talk has given you some kind of, again, some actionable thing, some real world thing that you can do right now that's going to help you improve in your practice time. It's going to help you with your execution. Now, if you don't have any idea how to practice, if you don't know what you should be practicing, that's where you drop me a note. If you're a drummer, drop me a note at brian@briansteves.com or send me a DM on any of the social platforms. Let's see about hooking you up into a lesson to where we can take a look at your playing and see what is it that you need to be practicing. What are your goals for your playing? If you don't know what your goals are, how do you know what you should practice? If you don't know where you stand in terms of your ability in an objective sense, and that's what teachers are great for, is being able to look at your playing and see deficiencies you can't see, or see well beyond where you are to where you could be. So shoot me an email. Shoot me a DM. I'd love to talk with you about setting up some lesson time. So that's all I've got for you. I just wanted to drop a quick one, not a big 30-minute one this week. Drop a quick one on you. Start your practice notebook this week. I mean, look at the difference between that and this. I mean, which one would you rather have to manage your life with? I'll take the notebook with a few pages in it. That's all I got for you this week. Until next time, be awesome to yourself. Be extra awesome to everybody you meet. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you. Thanks so much.